So how did last night go? Nervous?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm like, I have ideas for stuff, and I'm like, knowing how I've been playing Monster of the Week with my people and nobody ever goes where I want them to, I'm like, I need to have some kind of like backup stuff just for whatever you guys get yourselves into. And I really want it to be an authentic meeting of the characters versus like we meet in a tavern. I don't want to do that. I want it to be kind of authentic. So I'm trying to decide how I want that encounter to go, and especially knowing where I'm trying to put you guys for an environment.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, just a thought. Maybe you could stagger it so we don't all meet at once. Just a thought.
Yeah, I was gonna have like when you guys tell me some of your character backgrounds and stuff, I was like, I think there could also be a possibility of some of you guys being closer already and like maybe having a somewhat knowing of each other. So like maybe two of you would be like more likely to get together to work on something, and then or like two of you somehow come together and then like somebody else. Like it's gonna be really dependent on like how people's backstories and stuff go. But yeah, and I was laughing this morning when you guys were all going off in the group chat about if they were going to be a healer or not. And I was like, Alex, did you see that this morning? That's like the most the guys have talked to each other in forever. Like you guys were all going and going, and I'm like driving to work, like what is going on? And the phone just kept going and going.
I still don't know. I still don't know if I'm doing a barbarian or a cleric. I haven't actually built it yet. So
I was just dying when Jonathan was like, we'd have to play smart. And Sean's like, what does that mean?
I already, there's a couple things I'm like, oh God, if this happens, this is what I'm doing. So yeah, because I just, with the character.
Bring out your new characters.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, welcome to episode 2 of Legends of the Tabletop Parking Lot. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about disruptive and unfocused players on your table. I think our segue to that was kind of perfect. Like, we're doing a home game. Mm-hmm. We have new people we've never played with before. Mm-hmm. We've brought back some other players that we've enjoyed in the past. Mm-hmm. But that kind of, we enjoy people. But that kind of changes the dynamic of your home game. And
a new DM.
Yeah. New DMs.
Yeah, this new DM is terrible. Oh my God, she's the worst.
She can't be the worst when she hasn't started yet. All right?
I mean, just setting expectations low.
That way, only way you can go is up.
Yeah, no.
But
sorry, Veronica.
We've all been on a table that has the disruptive or unfocused players.
We've all been on that table together.
Well, yeah. Well, that's because I'm that player.
So today's episode is about Jonathan playing a bard in my upcoming campaign.
Absolutely. Yeah. How disruptive is your bard going to be, Jonathan? The answer is very.
This is actually an intervention. You just didn't realize it. we set this up. Script. Yeah. Sorry, John.
That's fine. I'm okay with that. So we want to talk about like your experiences with those types of players, and there's a bunch of different ways we can look at that. Because those aspects of a disruptive player can be in-game, out of game. Is it towards you? Is it towards the DM? Without like naming names or like pointing fingers, let's just talk about like the attributes of that person and like how does that make you feel when you're playing the game? I can go first. You guys look like you're thinking.
I'm thinking of nice ways to say that.
Yeah, the hard thing is saying it the nice way. But I mean, there are those players that their intention on the table is actively to throw a monkey wrench in everything.
Yeah.
And they're finding joy in that.
Which, okay, there's nothing wrong with subverting subverting of like other people's plans. That can be fun. But yeah, when it's actively working against the one of the players or multiple of the players or even the DM constantly, and it's like you basically no longer want to have them involved in stuff. Mm-hmm. That's where it's like, okay, no, this is not healthy. This is literally like when you're thinking about, man, I could just hit them and put them down and not get them back up. Like I could just do it.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking about encounters that I've had and just knowing that in the particular instance that comes to mind, there were times that they were so disruptive to the story and so unhelpful to the other players that it made me not want to come back the following week. And I was literally reaching out to the DM like, can we rein this guy in? Like, I'm not enjoying this. I'm like, I'm having fun with the other players at the table. We're working toward a plan together. We're helping these people. We're doing XYZ thing. And he comes in and completely destroys everything. Now these people don't want to help us. I think you just ruined somebody else's backstory. Like, it takes me out of the story. It ruins my immersion, as Brandon would say.
Ruins my. That didn't even start with me. By
I know
the way.
it didn't, but you're the one who always says
my
it.
immersion ruins it.
But it just makes it that I'm like, I'm not looking forward to coming in next week because he's gonna do something stupid again, and then I'm gonna be like, yeah. I'm like, and I know that was one of the topics we wanted to talk about too, was like, how do you handle those players? And I know personally, it was like a new table, it was new people I didn't know, so I was going to the DM to be like, what can we do? Because I'm new to the table, I'm new to this group, I don't know if this is normal, and trying to have that kind of open communication. That's part of why with my new table that I'm going to be running, I had those conversations up front of like, what are our expectations? What do we want to do when someone's not here? All that kind of stuff. Just to lay it out, to keep that open communication with everybody on the table. Because the whole point of D&D is we're getting together to have fun. Like that's always been my mindset coming into it, is I'm going to have a good time playing pretend with my friends, essentially. And I'm going to do really bad things when it comes to trying to do math.
7 plus
2
4
plus
is
3.
really difficult.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Did you add your modifier? What's that? I don't know.
Which modifier? Where is it? Yep.
Yeah, I mean, so D&D is hard enough as it is while you're playing. There's so much going on. And then to have that extra player that's not working to help you. I was thinking about like in and out of the game, there's like difficulties. And I don't know which one's worse. I think in-game is probably worse because you're messing with the story.
Mm-hmm.
Out of game, you can have that person that's, and it might be the unfocused thing. I've played with a couple people that literally were doodling on their piece of paper for the 2 hours. And then when something happens and their character has to be involved, you have to catch them back up. And it's like, well, if you had just stayed in the moment, you would know what's going on. But I think on the table when they're doing something active to stop you, especially when it's like to stop you. You're like, I'm going to go do this thing. And they're like,
Yeah. And it's like, roll. Yeah. And you hope that the roll is bad. And if it's
and then
not,
it's a nat 20. And
yeah.
like,
And it's
well,
like,
that just happened.
Yep. And it's like, okay, we got to kill this character now. No, I think with it though, you have to punish, and either the DM does or the people at the table need to actively punish that person until they get the point. And then you also have to have conversations off the table. If there's an issue, like, hey, dude, that wasn't cool, or, you know, not that everyone's going to take it, but you need to communicate. And I know with like some of our stuff, we'll talk about stuff later and be like, oh, you know, what was something that was good? What was something that was bad? Or someone would be like, oh man, when you did that, you messed this up, and da, da, da. So at least you get a feeling for how your actions are affecting, or how everyone's actions are affecting everyone else on the table. And not necessarily, you don't necessarily have to change things, but it just kind of reminds you that this is a story being told by the group, that everyone is involved, and your actions aren't just affecting your character development. It's also either adding to or taking away from the development of other characters. I was going to kind of segue. One of the other things that drives me nuts, and it's not necessarily a toxic player, but sometimes it's like toxic, and we've talked about this offline in some of our other stuff, where, you know, people are being toxic in the stuff that they say on the table, like towards a character, towards whatever, for whatever reason. And it's like, some like a little joke here or there is fine, but sometimes it actually starts to take away from the game, and it's like, hey, come on, guys, let's rein it in a little bit. And, you know, you have to do that at times. Usually it's the DM that has to do it.
Yeah, I mean, a D&D table is a living, breathing thing. And you, depending on how many people you have on the table, you're managing, 3 to 8 people a night. you're gonna step on each other's toes. There are gonna be stuff that's like a little weird sometimes. And we live in a world where like people need safe spaces. And I've always been like, haha, like this is D&D, don't worry about it. It can be as unsafe as it has to be. But I've kind of like taken a step back from that thought process and been like, no, like everyone should be able to come to this table and have a good time and not worry about the next person ruining a good time for you, because you do take so much time out of your own life to prep for D&D. I mean, if you think about the time the DM puts in, they're probably doing like 3 to 5 hours of prep a night to get ready for your 2 to 3 hours of gameplay. And then the players, I mean, they're like going away from their families or not doing other things, and they're devoting time to either like their character backstories or, you know, in some cases, like we have a live play. I rewatch our live plays just to like understand what's going on, because I miss a lot of stuff in the moment. And we have the opportunity to like go back and say, wow, this and this happened. So if you're on a table where you have that toxic player, you're stealing time from me. You're stealing joy from me. I'm actually like working towards something, and you're taking that away from me. So with that thought, let's talk about it. Like, what do you do to deal with it, with that type of player? And I, like we said, sometimes like, do you leave it to the DM? Do you have a conversation with the DM? Like, how are you most comfortable dealing with it, Veronica?
I mean, well, in the couple instances I've had of it, it's been mostly through the DM. I'm like, yeah, there's definitely like the first time I ever played, I remember one of the guys getting mad because his character had died, and then he just logged off and was like, F this. And we were like, what the heck's going on? Because one of the other players had wishes and like wished his character back. And then he was like, no, I want nothing to do with it. And it was just like, it brought the whole moment down. But we were all trying to coax him into it. Like, we're having fun playing with you. You know, why wouldn't you want to come back? And he was just so mad. So like in that instance, it was somebody we knew, and we tried to like talk to him and get him back and have it not be as disruptive. I'm like, in the other instance, it was somebody I didn't know very well. I'm like, there's also another person on the table that was very good friends with them, and they would often like tell them, hey, you know, can you please settle down? Like, and it was disappointing that had to happen on the table. And I'm like, I'm thinking back to it too. Like, there was also just times that you get the side conversations, that's fine, but then they keep going and start yelling over the other action happening on the table, like me and Brandon are role playing, and this guy's yelling over the group, and I'm like, I don't even know what I just said to him right now, you know. So I'm like, in that, I'm like, now I'm like, if something was going on like on our LOTT table, I would definitely be bringing it to you, Jonathan, as the person who's like our main production guy. Or if it was like really detrimental to the story, I'd probably be like, Alex, is this okay? But I'm like, it would really depend too. Like if it was you guys, I'm like, I know I've known you guys longer, and I'd be comfortable to be like, you know, Ash shouldn't have done that, you know. But then there's other guys, like I'm not as close with like Xander and the other guys on the table. So I'm like, I don't know how comfortable I would be. I'm like, I'm getting more comfortable with them. I like joking around with them and stuff, but it's really dependent for me on where my relationship is with that person. So I'm like, I'm not opposed to talking to people, but I also don't want it to come off the wrong way, because I know how I can get sometimes. That Latina energy comes out, and it can get a little intense. So I guess that's my thoughts on it.
For me, I'll take punitive action, not supporting their actions on the table, making it clear that my character dislikes the way they're playing their character. Like I make it very obvious, and it's like sometimes that works, and it's like, oh, okay, we got to work together and we got to patch this up. If that doesn't work, then yeah, like I'll have side conversations with the DM, or I'll say something to the person to try to be like, hey man, this is, you know, it's not work. You're being disruptive. And I mean, if it doesn't go from there, then I mean, ultimately you have to leave it up to the DM to do something, put the person down, or take the person off the table. No, literally, I mean, that's sometimes what it takes is you got to
put the player character down, not the person.
Yeah, that's what I was laughing at. I looked at John like,
hey, you know what?
He's got a tranquilizer in the corner.
Yep. It's, you know, whatever happens, happens.
Blow
you know?
darts.
Yep. So nice little woods back behind my place, you know, just don't go searching back there. Maybe
Don't bring your
a
shovel
few
back
missing
there.
players, you know. But no, so sometimes you just need to realize that there are, because again, people get in their mind, oh, I'm in this game and I can do whatever the heck I want. And it's like, Yes, you can be a murder hobo or you can do these other things,
Most certainly can try.
but it needs to involve the group. Like you can have little side things, but you have to be adding to the group. You have to, you know, figure out why. And I remember we played one of the first real like long games that we played. There was a moment where there was some discord on the table outside, you know, personal stuff and also on the table itself. And the one person's like, why are we even together? Like,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
why? And it's like, yeah, that's something you need to figure out. Like, okay, you need to reason in your head why. Like, why am I with this group? And, you know, what can I do to add to this group? What fits within my character build that will do that and focus on that, be constructive. And like I said, a lot of times it just comes down to the DM. Yeah, you have to go to the DM and say, hey, you know, this is what this person's doing. This is what I've tried doing, you know, and we got to do something. And you know, a lot of the power just ends up being in the DM's hands. They need to take some sort of punitive action against the person or pull them aside. Unfortunately, I mean, that's what it usually boils down to.
Yeah, I don't think there's a wrong way of handling this because every person's their own person. Every person's going to feel their own way about a situation. And you might just not be that person that's comfortable with the intensity of having a conversation.
I was gonna say
with
the
another,
confrontation.
Yeah, with another player on the table because they're already making your fun not fun. So why, you know, exacerbate that by confronting them? Or you might be the person that's like, yeah, I'm going to say something because this is the 3 hours a week I get to unwind and you are ruining it for me.
Be like, get out of my house.
So there's no wrong way of doing it. I think I take that back. There is one wrong way, not doing anything. Because then
Agreed.
you're agreeing and allowing that behavior to happen. You're saying that it's okay.
Yeah, it's
if you do
acceptable.
nothing.
Are you victim shaming? No. Sorry.
So I mean, but so you should if you're not comfortable being that person, go to the DM. That's what the DM is there for, right? They're like the rules officiant and the level setter. And I think it's a really hard job to be a DM.
The HR department.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really hard because you have so much going on the table already. And then do you really want to be parenting your players and slapping them on the wrist to get back in line? Not really. But you know what? Somebody put you in that position. Or
Just
like
wait till I come with my yardstick.
like Veronica said, you know, there are situations where on certain tables people have levels of authority in the group. So, you know, the DM can always say like, hey, I have this person here who we can go to for this thing, or I have this person to do that because I can't manage everything. And a lot of times, I'm be completely honest with you, as a DM, I have watched the toxic player and not realized how much toxicity they're giving to each other. I'm like, oh man, that was really uncomfortable for me, the DM, because you're ruining a story I'm writing. But I don't know that my players are also like, hey, that just ruined it for me as well.
Somebody told you.
Did you? But like, if it's not in the moment, if you're not like as it happens, hey, time out, that ruined my story. Like, yeah, you know, half an hour later after the session closes, it might be brought to my attention.
Yeah.
But I might miss it in the moment.
Yeah.
So
well, and it's so I'm gonna be on the other side of that. It's hard being a player. Like something's like, wow, that was really crappy. That person just kind of screwed that up. But you don't want to be like, oh, hold on, stop.
Yeah.
You just did this to me, and it's like, as I'm
Yeah,
going
I
to
guess
say,
there's the
it
other side.
ruins my immersion.
I think that's in the moment where I'm like, that was questionable, but we should move past it and
Yeah,
we can
yeah.
revisit it later.
Because
You know?
you don't want to be that person. So there is a little bit on this side where you're like, I don't want to ruin it for everyone else. Okay, this moment was. So sometimes it is those conversations later on where you're all talking and it's like, oh, wow, yeah, that was really crappy. Like what that person did. Yeah, okay. So,
Imagine there's going to be a lot of that on like my new table where I'm new to everything and I talk to you guys about like the good and bad parts of sessions, but having a new player on the table too, I'm definitely going to be reaching out to her every night and being like, how did you feel? I'm like, even last night I talked to her. Well, not last night, today I talked to her, but Jonathan and I talked last night. He was like, how do you think it went? You know,
yeah.
keeping the lines of communication open because you can't tell. And especially I'm like, she's new to all of you guys. And you won't be able to read her. She won't be able to read you guys as well. So like, there's going to be moments where I feel like things might get weird, but it's going to be a big learning curve of knowing the people as well, you know?
I was half expecting you just to be staring at me when I said that.
I did not. No accusations this time.
I was
I'm
waiting.
being serious this time.
Oh, all right.
Like you say sometimes like, you know, we had our conversation about our limits and all of that,
Yeah.
but still, you know, sometimes people will say something questionable and you'll be like, that was weird. Be like, well, XYZ about this person.
Yeah.
So it's not super weird for them because it's something they experienced, you know? But if it's something you want me to bring up, I don't know.
Yeah. No, and it is. It's kind of a balancing act where it's like, okay, sometimes you got to take and put your feelings in the back. Other times you need to bring it up. So, but especially like you said, with our session that you're going to be doing, with having a newer person around, newer people, we definitely need to rein anything in. But I feel like the people that we have on the table are pretty.
I'm like, in my mind, I'm imagining like you're describing like viciously gutting an animal and like they're like, oh, this is so freaking weird, you know, and it's like something we wouldn't even think of, like
Right.
Brandon fishes and maybe he's got a fish before and I was just like,
fish.
And it's,
"Ooh."
definitely nothing to
fish.
him to
Yeah.
say, to describe it.
Yeah. And then the other person is like, "Ugh," you know, like gross.
Yeah.
So like those are the kinds of things that like you don't necessarily, because I'm like, you're looking at me like, what do you mean by that? So I'm like just giving an example.
I'm like, okay, yeah, fair enough.
You know?
So yeah, that would be a little bit weird. So
Yeah, I think
or putting an animal skull on top of your head.
Oh yeah, wearing a tiger face as your face. Remember that? Oh my god.
So I think that's one thing
Whoops.
you definitely have to set clear expectations on your table. And of course, like in session 0, whoops, didn't want to play footsies with you.
Yes,
there.
you did.
I apologize.
Now I feel left out.
Well, you drank my water yesterday. So.
Oh, that's true. Wow.
Clear expectations. You
Yeah.
can't always set all of them. You're not going to get everything. So, you know, your boundaries on your table is like a general rule. Hey, let's try to stay within these parameters. And I think one of the ones that like I always miss as a DM is to tell my players, I expect you to be the hero. And then say, is that the game you want to play? Because if you're not playing the hero, I need to know that so that like we can steer the story in a way that works for you. My expectation as a DM is I'm the bad guy. I'm bringing the conflict into your lives. And some people want to be the conflict. And like, that's a great, if you find.
No, I'm looking at Brandon this time.
Whoa. One character. I had one character that was that way.
If you have a whole table that wants to be that, I think that works well. But if you only have one character or one player that's like, hey, I want to be the chaos. I want to be the thing that's going wrong. And everyone else is like, oh, I thought we were the heroes. Then you're going to have conflict. So it's one thing I think I'm going to bring to my tables going forward is my expectations, you're the hero. Tell me if I have that correct.
I was going to say that's something we didn't talk about.
Yeah, I'm
We
like, I'm going to have to add that in the Discord later.
Yeah. And I think with that, like setting, okay, you can only be like, okay, if you're going to be on the good side, everyone has to be at least neutral and above. You can't be evil. Because I've had it where we played a one shot. I guess it wasn't a one shot because we played a couple games with them. And one of my characters was chaotic evil. And I was the only one that was on that side of the spectrum. And it made for, I would say it was a toxic character, but that was the character. And like I explained to everyone that was the character, and it wasn't good. So
But it didn't sound like it would be.
I mean, it was a lot of fun, but everyone was like against it. It was amazing.
He was like murdering shopkeepers. Like,
I'm like, he's sitting here saying that he only ever did one character like that. But remember when we did our session 0 and he was like, I was going to spy on you guys and report about your magic use. And I'm like, yeah, so you're going against the table.
he also played a SW5E robot that was plotting against the.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we got a couple characters.
Not
Is that 1, 2, 3 characters?
Not even plotting. I literally was going to be the big baddie. I was behind with the DM, I was going to actually undermine but that group was a bunch of murder hobos. For anyone that hasn't heard, because we've only talked about this a couple times, we played a Star Wars version. It was
SW5E. Yeah, so it's a 5e version of Star
super
Wars.
fun. I played a P1 droid, so one of the roller droids, and that was sentient. So, and he hated anything that was biologic. So, of course, I'm working with a bunch of biologics. My thought is ultimately I'm going to try to get rid of them. And not by anything I did. Of course, I did
Problematic players.
pull the group to the far reaches of bad. The rest of the group went with it, and we ended up making the One-Eyed Bandits. So we ended up being the criminal organization on this planet.
Oh, my goodness.
We ended up taking over. We just by lucky rolls. I mean, really, really lucky rolls on our end and really bad rolls on the DM side, ended up ousting a couple, organizations and taking them over. So that was not on me. That P1 fit with the group. P1 fit with the group.
If you guys can't see, I'm rolling my eyes.
Yeah.
If you guys can't see in this
P1
microphone.
totally fit with the other two. The glass cannon wasn't a glass cannon at all. He's going to hear this. He's going to know who I'm talking about. But yeah, he was supposed to be all altruistic, and by the end, he was just as bad as the rest of us. But no, so I mean, I guess kind of what I was saying is that, we can all at times accidentally be that caustic player in the game without realizing it, right? We have a certain thing in mind, and that's why session 0, like you're saying, having set expectations is super important, because a lot of the issues on the table can be dealt with then, or not. You won't even have the issues, because now it's like, all right, everybody has to be this, right? The lowest you can be is like a neutral, right? Or whatever. And it's okay, so everyone is on the same side of the spectrum, and it's like, okay, everyone's good. So we're going to be, you're more likely that you're going to be working towards the same goal, because that's going to cause a lot of friction if you're not. So yeah, that was my thought on that.
You guys talked about in-game consequences, and at heart, I want to agree with, like, yeah, you should punish people on the table. But, like, punishment on the table sometimes feels like...
Punishment to the group.
Or the DM's not just DMing as, like, reaction. Now the DM is, like...
Targeting.
Targeting. So we had a situation where, like, something happened on the table that was unexpected. And as a DM, I actually thought to myself, this is how the character would react. And I did the thing that the character would do. It wasn't like it was a very negative consequence for the player, but it was me saying, this is what the character would do. If I, as the DM, say, the character would cower in fear, but because I want to punish the player, I'm going to now do this other thing because I want to give you a consequence for doing the thing I don't want you to do, then I'm metagaming in a fashion that I feel like as a DM, it's tricky it's a slippery slope of, instead of just reacting to your players, you're actively going after people. So I know Brandon said, he might do something in game. Your character might say, nope, I'm not okay with that either.
Yeah.
And your character does something that I agree with more than the DM doing punitive punishment to a player character.
I do agree. I mean, okay, so there are some instances where you're going to have to, though. You're going to have to drop like something, be like, okay, if you're going to go over there and you're not going to listen, there's this dude over here, he's going to murder you. Like, make it blatant, like absolutely obvious that if you continue on this course. So there are those, you need to have those bumpers on the sides.
Absolutely.
But like when I said that about punishment for the character side, it's not like I'm changing, especially if it's actions that my character would know about or would perceive that something, my character's view inside my head, maybe I'm crazy, inside my head, my character's view and how I approach that person now changes. It's hard not to meta. It's genuinely hard not to meta. So I always try to I try to separate the character in my view. My view, I may be annoyed with the person for stuff they're doing, but it's like, does my character know? Did my character see something? You know, if I roll terribly and I don't see something, I'm oblivious. But if I know, then that starts to paint the way. So my character starts to react in a certain way, which to me is like punitive, right? There are consequences for actions. Just like if my character screws something up or does something, you know, the rest of the table is going to react a certain way, or the DM. So I that's the way I try to do it. Is if someone is being disruptive or do whatever, maybe if I'm a support character, I'm not going to give them bless, or I'm not going to take and give them that healing. I'm going to focus on the person that I know is reliable, right? I'm going to focus on the person like, hey, you're going to do something wild and you're going to waste a spell, or you're going to do something really stupid. So I'm going to support the characters that I know are going to be reliable and are going to make good decisions, because those are the people that I need up. So, and that's my thing. It's like, you have to,
So what you're saying is like there's a trust issue on your table.
yes.
And I never want to play on a table where I can't trust every single player. Because my thought process going into this cooperative game is that all the player characters were on the same side. The DM is giving me the obstacle. If I can't blanketly trust every other player on the table, then we as a table have a problem.
Yes.
Because like you're saying, you're splitting your attention between what the DM is doing to you to what
And
your
what this
other
person-
player characters are doing
Yeah.
to you. That's a toxic table where the table's not working.
Yes.
So yeah.
No, go on.
No,
Sorry.
I was gonna say, like, I can completely understand if that's how you're going into these gameplays with that kind of anxiety, I would call it, because you're second guessing the people on your team.
And that's one of those things where sometimes you just have to make the decision, like, okay, is this table
Is
working?
this table for you?
And then it's like you have to just do a reset, right? Clear things, and it happens. It's unfortunate because you're putting all this time, like you said, we're taking time away from friends and family. I guess you become friends on the table, but you're taking all this time away. Yeah, it's like
I just like D&D.
yeah. It's like I
Who
get
are
to
you?
roll math rocks, but I have to deal with these people. I love you, math rocks.
I like collecting the shiny rods.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
I don't like counting the shiny rods.
no. But so yeah, it's kind of tough, but it's not just on the DM. The probably conversations could be had, but there are some people, like you said, that it doesn't matter if you say something, they're just not gonna see anything that they're doing is wrong, and it's because they're having fun. The problem is
they're
that
having a good time.
they're having a good time is ruining it for everybody else. So I mean, it's unfortunate because D&D should be fun, right? You're not gonna have fun every single moment. Sometimes you're gonna be bored out of your mind with whatever. If you're like
Or
me,
upset.
yeah, or
Yeah.
DM kills off a character that you guys all liked.
R.I.P. Pig Fat.
Yeah.
I didn't care for Pig Fat. But
I
that's
liked
okay.
Pig. Well, okay, so here's why I'm.
Oh, I'm
this
sorry.
is going off
R.I.P.
on a-
Jorl. Is that what you want?
Oh no,
No, I
Jorl,
actually don't
Jorl's
care about
death
any of the
was
NPCs.
Epic. If you haven't watched, you have to watch the last 2 episodes of our D&D game. So spoiler if you haven't. Jorl.
Everyone dies.
Just
Jorl
bleep that.
was
It's
Jorl was an absolute just. Ugh.
OG.
The dude, no, he was a failure. He was a failure at everything. Come on, he lost his hand. He's just a failure.
He's a fighter with no hands.
Yes,
goodness.
but no.
Oh my
So
The
what?
hate
What
hashtag
happened?
poor Jorl,
What
'cause-
happened to him was
Justice for Jorl.
Yeah.
epic. It was epic. It fit perfectly with how incompetent he was.
Oh my
Just
god.
goodness.
Oh my god.
Stumbling-
I'm sorry, Alex.
Stumbling
Yeah.
to his
We
death.
enjoyed the character.
No,
Don't listen.
But no.
That's the
Here's
thought
the
of
thing.
one
He-
crazy person.
He put because it's not just me, but he put all that effort into Jorl, and the character that we liked is a character in my mind, and that he'll probably never say, but I feel like Pig Fat was one of those things where we're like, oh well,
Who's this guy?
who's here, and he's like, oh yeah, we even have goblins, and it's like, oh, let's go talk to the goblin. And he was
Yeah.
like, oh crap, now I got to create a goblin. And it became something. It was like, oh, something cute and something funny. And it's like, yeah, sorry, we went off on a tangent. But I just had to, when she said pig fat, I was like, still butthurt about that. But no, it's funny how it doesn't matter what the DM does. ultimately kind
They're
of
wrong. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. The people
Yep.
on the table are the ones that really ultimately make the story. The DM kind of makes those guide rails and tries to keep you in there, but sometimes it just goes off the rails for good, or like we were talking about mainly on this is for bad. So, yeah, sorry about going off on that segue. Justice for Pig Fat.
I'm going to say this because I'm going to go off on your tangent with you. You liked him because he was your mascot. Jorl is like a commanding person that was cutting in on your time. Pig Fat straight up is a mascot.
Pig Fat was amazing.
He's a
though.
mascot, and that's
He
why
was
you
amazing.
liked him.
My
And
mother's
he's
name.
fine. He's fine, but like
And
My
the
mother's
voice,
name
come
was
on.
Pig Fat.
It was just it added some fun, and I think we all liked him. You didn't? See, I didn't
She
like.
doesn't even like her brother.
I don't care either way. It was an NPC.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to
Because he likes Kareen, but that's a whole different story.
Wait, who's Kareem?
the
Kareen.
one-eyed lady from the tavern.
Oh! For anyone that doesn't know, I don't remember character names.
He doesn't
or
take
anything
notes.
else. I don't take notes. It's,
Listen
it's
to the
part
last
of my character.
podcast.
Yeah, it's part of my character.
All right, what's the next part, Jonathan?
No, so
Bring us back.
Yeah, trying to rein us in.
back. So
Bring
have
it-
you ever
bring it
been the toxic player on the table? And I think we all can say yes because, like Brandon said earlier, like at some point in the story, you've done the thing that somebody else is annoyed with. Do you catch on to that you're the toxic player in that moment?
I would say you don't catch on right away. I was gonna say with Garth, best ranged fighter. No, he. You build a character and you go with that character and you realize because your interactions with the other players, and this is how I realized that he was just not fit for this table, and I was the toxic player, is that there's just genuine animosity, and the other players are trying to like fit you or shift you over, keep you away. They're actively now they're not playing against the DM. They're playing against you. And you're like, oh. So and with that, it's like you either commit or you have changed your
double down.
character. And with
I know
Gareth,
I'm doing something bad.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue.
hey, this was a one shot, so I was like, you know what? I'm going in. I'm committing fully. Thus the shopkeeper died. But no, so it's, for me, because I'm always watching the other players. I'm seeing how they're reacting and what they're doing. And for me, I picked up on it pretty quickly that I was the toxic player on that table at that time. So if it hadn't been a one shot, I would have slowly altered my character and softened him. But because it wasn't, I just was like, you know what? We're going to finish this session and he's just going to be a player that's relegated to one shots or, hey, I need a character here. I'm going to pull Gareth.
V?
I don't know. I'm like, the first time I ever played, none of us really knew what we were doing. And I barely even remember anything from those like dungeon crawls and stuff that we did. And like my first real time playing was here with you guys. And I still felt like my character of Amethyst was pretty quiet. I'm like, I can say that playing Willow, there's definitely been times where I've not done something and other players have been mad about it. I wouldn't say it was toxic, but like we have a plan when it comes to healing, and then one of the characters gets mad that I didn't heal them, and they keep actively saying something and I keep actively ignoring them, and then afterwards they're like, what the hell,
I'll heal you when you're dead.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's your character. I don't think you haven't been toxic.
No, because I feel
You
like
haven't had a chance. You will.
I'm like, I'm still getting comfortable with what I'm doing and learning. I'm like I said the other day, I've only ever made 3 clerics. Like I'm still learning the mechanics of the game, and maybe through DMing, I'm being the bad guy. I think that'll open a door for opportunity for me to play other characters. Because like even when we're talking about 2024 builds and stuff, I'm looking at the character types and what I would want to build, and some of them do seem more on like the eviler side, where I feel like I could get kind of weird. But I'm like, I feel like I don't know that I could play that kind of character, but through DMing, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to come up with this story and be like, screw you guys, So it's gonna be interesting to see how that develops and how I get more comfortable. And I feel like through your comfortability, I think, and having the expression of doing whatever you want, I feel like that's where you're really going to get into it, because you're just going to be like, this is a cool world and I'm going to do whatever I want and screw you guys, you know? So yeah, I'm like, I think my characters, I've been working so hard on knowing, and even though I never know how to freaking use my spiritual weapon and stuff, but I'm trying really hard to know my spells and to know who I am, that I still feel like part of Willow is Veronica. Veronica's a very observant person. So she's watching what's going on, and I'll see when other people are doing stuff. Like I'll see if Ash is being sketchy, or if I'll see if like Graddock's doing something weird, you know, and I'm just like, I don't know, you know. So I feel like that's still where I'm at and getting comfortable with it. But I definitely feel like as I get to that point, like one of these days I'm going to play like a barbarian fighter who just thinks she's the coolest person in the world and doesn't care about, you're going to be like, come help me fight these people. I'm like, screw you guys, I'm getting a nail, you know? I'm like, there's definitely opportunity for that as I get more comfortable.
Yeah.
I hope to not be as toxic as some of the people that we've experienced in the past, but you never know.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, you have to actively be, I mean, genuinely bad.
So in a situation where I'm a bard, I'm the most disruptive person on the table.
That's what I'm saying. Character type, I think, has a lot to do with it too.
I'm like, you know what? I'm the speaker here. I'm charismatic AF. My roles are probably going to go in my favor, so I'm going to say the thing that I want to say.
Or like Braddock going to the manor. Hello, I found the door. And I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not toxic, but I'm like, it's just the character type.
And so like, toxic. We're using toxic a lot. Disruptive.
Yeah.
I like disruptive a little bit more because it's not as negative. I mean, there aren't toxic players, but disruptive. I think you're going to see a disruptive player on your table, and I want to see how you react to it.
I also see him in real life.
Because the bard in me is going to pop out, and I'm going to try to.
You've already been practicing your dance moves, so
I have been. I'm so looking forward to.
Oh, poor Alex.
I'm like, I can't wait for Alex to see.
Yeah.
What's going to happen on this table.
And you said I was the weird one.
I know.
And this is, we'll talk about that offline, but it's going to be a great time for you.
It's going to be interesting to say the least.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for your comments and insight. We want to hear from our listeners, though, so sound off in the comments about how you deal with these types of players or situations. We want to know. We hope that everyone continues to listen to our podcast, which comes out at least at this point once a month on our YouTube channel. And please join us for our other content, our D&D live plays, our Hero Quest, and many other forms of our content. But until the next time, stay legendary.
Justice for Big Fat.
Justice for Doral.
Hi, Joe.